Are you thorough with the anatomy of facial nerve? If anyone is saying as no, then you have to go back and see the classes on anatomy of facial nerve, because a thorough understanding of the facial nerve basic anatomy is needed to know about the lesions of facial nerve, the different types of surgeries, then topographical test and electro-diagnostic test. Okay. With the strong concept of facial nerve anatomy, now we can go to what is this? Lesions of facial nerve. So the facial nerve lesions can happen at different levels. You know, it starts from the supranuclear area, right? It is from the face area of the cortex. So first we can tell about the supranuclear, right? So where is it? Above the nucleus. We can divide that into a supranuclear, a nuclear and infranuclear, right? So supranuclear, nuclear and infranuclear. And this infranuclear part we can again divide it into intratemporal and extratemporal, right? So what happens in a supranuclear lesion? Cortical lesion. I have already told that this facial nucleus has got an upper part and a lower part. The upper portion, from which the upper portion comes, that is the forehead and around the eyes. Frowning on the forehead and the closure of the eyes. That part has a cortical representation, mainly from the contralateral cortex and also from the ipsilateral cortex. Got it? Upper part of face has got contralateral as well as ipsilateral, that is bilateral representation. Whereas the lower part has got only contralateral fibers, right? So what happens? If there is a supranuclear lesion at the cortex or at the internal capsule, what happens? This part, because it has got a bilateral representation, the upper part of the face will be spared, right? Even then, in a supranuclear lesion and UMN facial palsy, patient can wrinkle his forehead and can also close the eyelid, right? And if it happened, and one more thing, this involuntary movement as well as emotional movement, that is sadness, and if it is anger, all these emotional movements are from where? It is from the extrapyramidal system, right? So in a UMN facial palsy, this involuntary movement and also the emotional movement is also not affected, right? That is about the supranuclear palsy. Then second, what happens if there is, this is cortex and internal capsule. Second, in an extrapyramidal system, what happens if the extrapyramidal system is lost? The emotional movement and the involuntary movement will be lost. So there will be a mask-like face, right? And there will be cervical facial dystonia, facial palsy along with the cervical facial dystonia, and that is called a Meeks syndrome. There are so many syndromes associated with the facial nerve palsy. One of that is a Meeks syndrome, right? Meeks syndrome. Then, so cortical, internal capsule, extrapyramidal system, then the midbrain. What will happen in midbrain lesion? Midbrain lesion, along with facial nerve, there will be oculomotor also, right? So there will be oculomotor palsy, leading to a unilateral Weber syndrome. If the midbrain level is cut, there will be a unilateral Weber's sign will be present, right? Then, in the nucleus, what is the connection with the 7 intimately connected or winds around the 6th nucleus, right? So if your cut is here, what will happen? At the pontine region, 6th and 7th will be affected. Which are components of the 6th nerve? Everything. This there will be facial palsy. Along with that, there will be sixth nerve involvement, abducent nerve involvement. What will happen then? There will be an internal strabismus, right? Lateral rectus palsy will happen. So that is called a Millard-Gubler syndrome. Millard-Gubler. Okay. Then after the nucleus, right? That is the nucleus. Then infranuclear, right? So infranuclear, what happened? The facial nerve proper along with the nervus intermedius exit from the CP angle, and along with which nerve? Eighth nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve. So 7th and 8th. So if there is a lesion here, what will be the complaints? Or what will be the presentation of the patient? There will be complete facial palsy. Along with the facial muscle weakness, there will be also this lacrimation, salivation, taste sensation, and sensation at the root of pinna and external auditory canal will also be affected. Right? It's very, very easy. Just you remember the anatomy. That's all. Okay. Along with that, there will be vestibulocochlear. If the vestibular part is affected, what will happen? What will happen in a vestibular affection? There will be giddiness, vertigo, and the cochlear component, there will be sensory neural hearing loss. Okay. So, if and in the early lesion, and if the CP angle tumor become very large, what will happen? The nerve fiber, fifth will be affected. Along with that, if it is then even it is bigger, then what happens? 9, 10 and 11 also will be affected. Right? But there is a peculiarity of the facial nerve from the CP angle up to the fundus. From here to here. What is that? From here, CP angle up to the fundus of the internal acoustic canal. This facial nerve has no covering. Nerve sheet is absent. Then what is there? It is covered only by the glia. There is no covering. It is free to move. So what happened? It is stretchable. Right? This part is stretchable. So small lesions of the affecting the CP angle will not cause a facial nerve palsy. Facial motor weakness will not be there. Right? So what are the lesions commonly seen in this area? One is a acoustic neuroma or a vestibular schwannoma. The other one is, what are the other things? Can be a primary cholesteatoma, or it can be a meningioma, or any vascular compressing lesions. These are the common ones. Can be an acoustic neuroma, or a primary cholesteatoma, or a meningioma, or a vascular compressing lesions. All these small lesions will not cause facial motor weakness, but one of the early signs often acoustic neuroma. What is that? What is Hitzelberger sign? Hitzelberger sign. What is that? What is that? Berger. Hitzelberger sign. What is that? There will be altered sensation. Sometimes the patient will complain that I have got a pricking sensation on the root of pinna and on the posterior-superior aspect of the external auditory canal. You know, these fibers are going to the pain, touch and temperature of the which area? Thus, root of pinna and also the posterior-superior part of the external auditory canal. Isn't it? So, that part will be affected and it will cause an Hitzelberger sign. Right? From the CP angle, where does the facial nerve goes? Along with the 8th nerve, it goes into the internal acoustic canal. And again the lesions here will cause involvement of both 7th and 8th. Isn't it? Vestibular component and cochlear component will be lost, and facial nerve proper along with the sensory root. Okay. If the sensory root is cut, the nervus intermedius or nerve of Prisberg, which all sensations will be lost? Okay, there will be lacrimation, then comes what? Taste, salivation, and also your cutaneous sensation, pain, touch and temperature on the root of pinna and posterior superior part of the external auditory canal, right? And what comes here is fundus, and from the fundus this facial nerve goes into a separate canal, that is a fallopian canal, and this 8th nerve will leave the company of the 7th nerve, right? And from the fundus starts the fallopian canal. Fallopian canal, how many segments? Fallopian canal, what is this segment called? It is a labyrinthine segment. This part, tympanic portion, and this part, what is that? It is a meatal part, mastoid part, right? It's not meatal, it's a meatal is here. This is a mastoid part, right? So, labyrinthine, tympanic and mastoid segment. Okay, and this fallopian canal has got some unique features. The first thing about facial nerve, the facial nerve is a nerve which has got a longest canal. It has got its own canal, longest canal in the body. So only nerve having such a longest facial canal, bony canal, right? Second, what is the shape here? Shape of the fallopian canal. What is that? Isn't it like this? So what is it? Set. It's a set shaped, right? And again, about this peculiarity of labyrinthine segment. What is that? I already told in previous class. What is that? What is this physiological bottleneck of fish? What is that? Here, see this part from the fundus to the starts the fallopian canal. So at the entry of the fallopian canal, that is in the labyrinthine segment, the canal is very much constricted. Okay, and it has got a diameter of around 0.68 millimeter. Where this part, right? And this part is called the physiological bottleneck of fish, very much constricted. Okay, so one thing, physiological bottleneck of fish. Second thing is that around this fundus or around the facial canal, around the nerve, there is a band of arachnoid. So one arachnoid band encircles the facial nerve, only the facial nerve. Okay, the facial nerve. So an arachnoid band encircles this. If this is a nerve, an arachnoid band encircles that, right? So what is the result? What will be the result of that? Even a minor edema of the nerve will cause strangulation, right? This part, it's very much one. It is the narrowest part, smallest diameter, and second, that facial canal is narrower and the nerve is also encircled by a arachnoid band. So what happened? Even a slight edema of the nerve will cause strangulation of the nerve. That is second thing about that. And third is that there is no anastomotic arterial arcade. Usually if an artery comes and forms a plexus around the nerve. In this labyrinthine segment, there is no anastomotic arcade, otherwise it can be called as an end arterial blood supply. So that also, these three things makes it more vulnerable or very much vulnerable to an injury even by a small edema of the facial canal or the nerve. Okay, second thing is that around this fundus or around the facial canal, around the nerve, there is a band of arachnoid. So one arachnoid band encircles the facial nerve, only the facial nerve. Okay, the facial nerve. So an arachnoid band encircles this. If this is a nerve, an arachnoid band encircles that, right? So what is the result? What will be the result of that? Even a minor edema of the nerve will cause strangulation, right? This part, it's very much one. It is the narrowest part, smallest diameter, and second, that facial canal is narrower and the nerve is also encircled by a arachnoid band. So what happened? Even a slight edema of the nerve will cause strangulation of the nerve. That is second thing about that. And third is that there is no anastomotic arterial arcade. Usually if an artery comes and forms a plexus around the nerve. In this labyrinthine segment, there is no anastomotic artery. That is, otherwise it can be called as an end arterial blood supply. So that also, these three things makes it more vulnerable or very much vulnerable to an injury even by a small edema of the facial canal or the nerve. Okay, and then the labyrinthine segment. And this labyrinthine segment includes geniculate ganglion also. Remember our geniculate ganglion. Which all fibers relay in the geniculate ganglion? Yes, which all fibers relay in the geniculate ganglion? Yes, only the somatosensory and special sensory afferent. What are that? Somatosensory, that is pain. Pain from the root of pinna and the posterior part of the external auditory canal. And special sensory afferent, what is that? It is the taste fibers from the anterior to the rectum. Right? So only these two will relay here. All other fibers, this from the nucleus of superior salivary nucleus will not relay here. They are parasympathetic preganglionic fibers. They will relay spinopalatine ganglion and also in the submandibular ganglion. So only taste from anterior two-third of tongue and pain and touch and temperature from the external auditory canal, posterior superior part, will relay in this geniculate ganglion. Okay, and which now takes from goes out from the geniculate ganglion without relaying, and that is the first branch of the facial nerve. What is that? Here, this one. What is this? It's a greater petrosal nerve. So greater petrosal nerve is the first branch of the facial nerve, which is going out from his fallopian canal. Okay. So then another thing about this is that in 15% of the cases, this geniculate ganglion is situated within the fallopian canal, isn't it? But in 15%, 15% of the temporal bone, this geniculate ganglion, the area of the fallopian canal containing the geniculate ganglion lacks a bony covering. So that what happens? It is more vulnerable to injury during surgeries of the middle cranial fossa. Okay. Yes. And another thing which causes injury from the CP angle up to the labyrinthine segment is the fractures of the temporal bone. Right? Temporal bone fracture.